Serbian Confederation calls for a countrywide action later this month, a crucial litmus test for the new president's plans to dismantle Latin America's oldest welfare state. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
The governor in Ukraine's Kharkiv region says 11 people have been injured in a Russian missile strike in a hotel. It says 2 missiles hit the building late on Wednesday. Among those wounded are Turkish journalists. Russia is evacuating hundreds of children away from the Ukrainian border. They boarded a train in Belgorod near the border with Ukraine. It's one of the biggest civilian evacuations on Russian soil since the start of the war. Ukrainian shelling has intensified in the region in recent weeks. Now, the race is getting tighter for the US Republican Party's presidential nomination. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has dropped out. That leaves Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis still competing. But former President Donald Trump remains the clear frontrunner ahead of the first major vote in Iowa next week. Well, that's it from me, Darren Jordan, for now. You can find more news on our website, AlJazeera.com. Talk to Al Jazeera is coming up next. Thanks for watching.
The US is always of interest to people all around the world.
This has been going on for a number of hours with tear gas being used.
Al Jazeera reports stories from an international perspective. We try to explain to our global audience how this could impact their lives. This is an important part of the world, and Al Jazeera is very good at bringing the news to the world from here.
Is that going to be...
In a ruptured post-war world, a bitter rivalry developed between East and West. Ideological differences evolved into the global power struggle of the Cold War, influencing politics, economies, cultures and technology. In its wake, old rivalries linger, and the powers of East and West continue to compete. Where once the space race was a defining aspect of this competition, innovation continues to be at its heart. Now, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, telecommunications and biotechnology are new arenas on the fault lines of the Cold War. Serbia is one of them, wrought from the former Socialist Republic of Yugoslavia, itself torn apart by war. A period marked by conflict and political upheaval culminated in the Balkan Wars and NATO's intervention over Kosovo in 1999. Now, after 2 decades of reintegration into the international community, has the Eastern European nation thrown off its pariah status in the eyes of the West? Over the next half hour, we explore Serbia's advancements in science and technology, a key part of its strategic plan to build bridges across a divided world. The Serbian Minister of Science, Technological Development and Innovation, Jelena Begovic, talks to Al Jazeera. Jelena Begovic, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
It's my pleasure.
To read some of the headlines with your name in them, it looks a bit like a sort of golden age for Serbian science and innovation. I'm talking about things like the growth of ICT systems, research and development centres and institutes, advances in biotech and artificial intelligence, particularly in healthcare, and of course a burgeoning startup sector. Good times, is it, for Serbian science and tech?
Yes, I think it's the second best moment. You know, they say 20 years ago was a perfect moment, but the second best is today. And I think we are catching up with what is happening on the global level, and Serbia is really becoming very vibrant when it comes to science and the development of the innovations. And the government has recognized the importance of the science in facing, let's say, challenges that are ahead of us and that are tackling our everyday life on a local level, but also on a global level. So we kind of reorganized the whole ecosystem, and we're still working on the reshaping of the scientific ecosystem and innovative ecosystem in Serbia. So we have 2 now big funds national funds that are directly financing on one side science, like a science fund, but also innovation and collaboration between academia and industry and private sector. It's Innovation Fund. We are also part of the European Union framework Horizon Europe, and the government is also investing substantial funds to support this collaboration, I would say international collaboration. And now we have national projects, so we based our future plans on previous success within the ICT field, where this area became the second most important export good from Serbia at the rate at the level of 2.7 billion euros on annual basis, with a annual growth of around 40%.
I'm interested to pick up on what you said about the second highest point, the first being perhaps 20 years ago, because it's easy to forget that Serbia 20 years ago, or a little more than 20 years ago, was emerging from years of war, of sanctions, of pariah status, certainly in the eyes of much of the West. And yet here you are. It's an extraordinary leap from having rejoined the international community to forging a path at the forefront of technological development.
Yes, I completely agree, but I think the science is something that doesn't recognize barriers, that requires international collaboration and communication with everyone. So, you know, the knowledge has to flow like a water. And I see the science as a really new face of Serbia, innovations, and we are really now trying to build up the system that we become a visible spot on a kind of global map of innovations, of science, of knowledge, and really to attract people from all around the world with big infrastructural investments, but also investments in education and investments in people, because, you know, the people are the main spice in this.
Just to stay on this point, tell me about some of the challenges involved over the last 2 decades in shaking off the image of the past, in rebuilding an economy from the ground up, and importantly also forging new alliances.
Yes, well, I find the challenges challenging. I mean, they force you to find new solutions, to rethink, and you know, to make a new way forward. So yes, we were facing challenges like a brain drain, but with strategical investments and strategical goals, you can turn around this even problem. Particularly in ICT, we're now having brain gain. Really, we're in a plus. If we talk about experts in this area, we have around 120,000 people working in this field, with 40,000 developers, and this number is growing. So when you have good infrastructure, good R&D, when you attracted big companies that are opening and creating new jobs, and the vibrant ecosystem, startup ecosystem, people will stay, people will come back, and people will come from all around the world.
You may well prefer the idea of looking forward.
Absolutely.
Than looking back, and I would understand that.
It's always, you know, you're learning your lessons.
But it's very interesting for us to understand how it is that you get to a place where you have all of these things that you describe, this infrastructure, these ecosystems. When you start from ground zero 23 years ago, coming out of a socialist republic, coming out of international sanctions, coming out of pariah status, this didn't just happen.
Oh no, it didn't happen. I mean, you need strong economy. You have to build first, you know, the economy, the infrastructure. You need to build the country which is recognized, okay, this is a good place for investments. That means you have to intervene on a legal framework. different incentives for R&D centers, different incentives for direct foreign investments. So it takes time, it takes a lot of effort and very focused strategical thinking of the government. And after 10 years, you get the ecosystem where you can implement, the next level that you attract more sophisticated companies like Continental, Schneider Electric, Microsoft to open their R&D centers. Now we are attracting biopharma companies to come and to see and recognize Serbia as a potential innovation hub in a broader region. And this is also bringing the whole region, together under these hubs. So I see Serbia as a, leader in this way, in this manner.
I want to talk now about you, Jelena Begovic. Let's try to get a little bit under your skin, because you have an interesting background, of course. You grew up in a socialist republic, Serbia, part of the former Yugoslavia, educated there. You became a decorated scientist yourself, a molecular biologist, just as Serbia was emerging from the turbulent Milosevic years. How likely a path was it for a woman to follow into the world of science at that time?
Well, actually, in our country, and I would say thanks to the socialist system, the women were included in all areas of the society equally as men. So for us, it's nothing special. It was normal to get educated. It was normal to build career. You choose what you want to be in your life, and you can reach really the highest levels in hierarchy. And the numbers in our country, more than 50% of students are female. More than almost 60% of the PhDs are females. At the research institutes, 60% are females, with, for instance, at the University of Belgrade, out of 11 institutes, 9 are led by women. Now we have a Minister of Science as a woman. So I cannot say that I found the path too difficult. Maybe it's my nature. I don't give up on things. I do have ambitions and visions how we should go further with science and innovation. But nevertheless, the cultural surrounding was very supportive. So the system was very supportive for women, to build their careers.
Okay, so here you are, 2 decades down the line, Serbia initiating a resolution, your ministry no doubt leading the way, a resolution that the United Nations adopted this year, a couple of months ago, titled the International Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development, that will run from next year, 2024 to 2033. What are the mechanics of that?
Well, actually, I'm so proud of this resolution, and this has been I would say great diplomatic success, but also success of science. I see it really as a success of science, where we initiated this resolution and it was adopted at the end of August this year. So when we look at the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and how are we reaching them, the numbers are not really good. About 15% of the goals targets, 140 targets, we reached to the level that is sufficient for the moment. Unfortunately, the things were slowing down due to Corona, geopolitical events and everything. So until 2030, we're not going to reach most of them, unfortunately. And the idea came to somehow involve science, to use more scientific evidence-based data, more organized on a global level, and to try to speed up the reaching of SDGs, because they are more or less related to science, from the climate change to life on Earth, beneath Earth, zero hunger, everything is directly or indirectly connected to science. And this is the idea, to involve much more entities in every government, then on intergovernmental levels, on a global level, to try to push forward the sustainable development goals. Because I think that this is it might be our last chance, to speed up this process.
You find yourself, not entirely intentionally as far as I can tell, in politics, in a ministerial seat, and now you have to navigate not just science, but the political direction of the country as well. I wonder, to what extent do science and politics interact?
That's a good question. Well, from my point of view, now they're interacting. But science is becoming very, very important for the development of the society, for the development of economy. Thus, it has to be interaction, of course, with the politics. And I think we should use the power of science for the development of a society as a whole from different aspects, and that requires the support from the government. So it's the fact. I mean, if we want to build a Bio4 campus project of around 400 million euros, you need a huge support from the government, not only financial support, but overall support in order really to, get there in 2026 where your plan is. The support for science, for changes of legal framework, you again need the support of politics, of the government. So I think there is not a single part of our life that is not directly or indirectly connected and depending somehow on the government and on the politics, and I'm saying about the global level. But I'm happy that science is becoming important.
Let me put a more specific slant on that question, because Serbia straddles a number of quite sensitive geopolitical fault lines. On the one hand, you're sponsoring a successful global resolution of the United Nations. On the other hand, maintaining friendly relations with Russia, for instance. On the one hand, you have a foot in the European Union. On the other hand, or foot rather, a foot in the Chinese camp, a big supporter and very involved in the Belt and Road Initiative. How sensitive is that balance to maintain?
Well, actually, for me, it comes naturally. I mean, I'm a scientist. So as I said previously, for me, the borders don't exist. So everywhere where is a good science, where is a chance to collaborate, where is a chance to grow together, I will choose that. From the perspective of a ministry or minister of science, because I think to fight the global challenges, we need to really think globally. And that means no borders. And as you can see, there are no borders. I mean, the technology is developing, the science is developing. We are reaching milestones every 6 months because everyone is working together. So I see a science as a very strong power to overcome different challenges that are not directly related to